moving forward in a little bit, but first of all, it was a tough night on Friday. How's the mood been in the week since?
Like I said after the game, I think our performance was bad. The result was bad. We're obviously very disappointed with that. I don't think that was a true reflection of what we are as a team and what our standards are. And of course, when you have a performance like that, everyone is disappointed. And we needed to take the first days after that to connect, to reflect, to learn what we need to learn from that game. And after that, you need to look forward. You need to remember who you are. You need to remember what you want to achieve when you are playing, and you need to put your focus on that. And you need to shift the mindset and start looking forward. Once you've learned what you need to learn, you start looking forward, and that's what we have been doing.
Group of top professionals, obviously a group of winners as well. Have you seen, I bet you haven't even had to ask for determination in training. You will have seen that, I guess, this week, determination to bounce back.
Of course, like the motivation in showing another side of us than we did last Friday. That's of course, it's a big part of that. But while I don't think we're on an effort level was good enough on Friday, and that hurts. Playing good football is more than only having a good effort as well for it. So it's really, really important to find the enjoyment when you play. And I think sometimes that's when you lose, when you try to bounce back after a poor performance. You're all about the hard work and the hard skills and all that, and you tend to forget about the soft skills and the enjoyment that is so important. If you want to play great football, you need to have the enjoyment with it as well, and have players that can feel free and doesn't need to overthink moments for it. So I think that's been really important elements to bring into our practice this week as well.
On the kind of overthinking, by the time you kick off on Sunday evening, you could be 9 points adrift of the top of the table. I know it's to do with where the fixtures are, but 9 points, even with the game in hand, does seem quite a big gap. Could that play a part mentally, do you think?
No, I hope not, because what we need to be focused on is what we need to play against Aston Villa, and that's where 100% of our focus needs to be. If our focus starts to drift all over the place, then I think that affects performance, and that's not good. So that's part of the challenge that we have, to keep one game a time in focus, and that's what we need to do for now and for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that one game at a time focus probably answers my next question, but pretty much everyone is writing off now your chances of winning the title. Have you done that yet? Have you written off your chances of winning the title?
I'm a firm believer is that you need to do your absolute best in every game you play, and you need to prepare for that as good as possible to it. And when the league table then is finished, you will end up and see your position. So that's what we need to put our focus on to. And we have important games coming up, and we need to play one game at a time.
You beat Villa quite recently, 4-0. Can we read anything into that game, that result?
I think this season also taught us that you will not get anything for free based on your past performances against any team. It's a very, very competitive league. Villa is a very competitive team, and they will be a strong opponent against us, and we need to be in our very best behaviour on Sunday.
Obviously, there's a big cup final coming up the week after. Is there any danger at all with that? Probably now your best chance of silverware, of the players at the back of their mind too much having that game, thinking about that game this weekend?
Like I said, that's another example of an external focus that can take away focus and priority for the game this weekend. We can't allow that to happen. We need to stay one game at a time to focus on, and now it's Aston Villa, and that's where we put our focus to.
And just a final one, just to complete the circle, final thought on the socks on Friday. Obviously it's a genuine mistake. Karen Carney said it was frustrating for the game that was being highlighted when you're trying to look as professional as possible. Any comeback on that this week? What's the situation? Have you got to the bottom of what happened and why?
I mean, it's obviously not exactly under my department and responsibilities to do that, but we all acknowledge that it's not good enough, and of course we should be able to have the right kit on. That's not an issue that we're trying to shy away from. What's important for me to know is that we have things put in place so it's not going to happen again. And that's the most important thing in any organization. When you make a mistake, it's to making sure, do you learn from it, and are you making sure that it's not happening again? And that I've been assured of, and therefore I don't spend more energy on it.
You're convinced that now is the case, that this can't and won't happen again?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Tim.
Hi, Jonas. Can I ask first if there's any update on team news at all ahead of Sunday?
Not really. We have 2 more trainings here, today and tomorrow. We've been training well, so we have a good competition in the squad available for selection.
And my next question, some of it you touched on a bit earlier, but in the wake of Friday night, certainly fans will go to a very soul-searching, start zooming out, start asking bigger questions. I try not to go there because I feel like when you go there, you're kind of going to a dark place sometimes, but sometimes I feel like you need to do that. And I wondered for you, what is the balance between that kind of zooming out or staying kind of process focused and trying not to go to that dark place? Or is it useful to do that? Like, when is it useful to do that? When does that line come when you ask those kind of bigger questions about team progress and everything like that? Because the season hasn't really gone, I think, the way that Arsenal would have wanted so far. So at what point is there like a line where you kind of think, okay, this is a time to kind of ask questions, or do you deliberately try not to go there just yet?
I think that's a very good question to begin with, and I think it's one of the challenges that you have all the time, because and I understand that when the performance and the results are not good as supporters, that you tend to go to that place. As a coach, you do the same, and as a player, we do the same as well. And I think it's a very human thing for the mind to drift like that, because you're naturally very disappointed about what is happening, and you're in something that you're investing a lot of your emotions into. And then you have the, I wouldn't say problem, but the situation where you have a long time between the games, which sort of can allow your mind to drift there a longer time than usual before you need to prepare for the next opponent. I think it's important to try and stay as constructive as possible, and now I'm just talking from my side, of course, to do that, and to always be very mindful and say, like, what can we control in this? Am I putting my focus on where we can control the things? What things do we need to do short term, and what things do we need to do long term as well? And that, if you say evaluation process in changing things long term, I don't believe that you just put your head down in the sand and you continue to work during the season, and then you have this big review process after the season and be like, what was good, what was going wrong, what do we potentially need to change for the next season? Like, I think that's a continuous thing. And if I would compare it to like a plane crash sometimes, is to say, like, what usually leads to the plane crashing might be a very, very tiny detail for it, but you need to go through all the processes and all the details in order to find, like, okay, there was an oil leakage here, for example, and how do we fix that for next time? So it's usually the things that you need to oversee and you need to fix does not necessarily need to be the biggest ones. It might be one detail, but the effect that detail has is a big one. And that's a responsibility for me and the organization to find that. And I think our season so far, I think it's been a very inconsistent one. It's been a very inconsistent season. I think where you can see progress has been at individual games and individual periods of the seasons where I think we have shown that we are a very, very capable football team, playing some really good football and being able to compete and beat all our competitors. But what we haven't been able to show is that we are a team that are doing that consistently and are able to perform on that standard consistently. And that's disappointing. And that's really where I hope where we could get with this team. Are there reasons for why we're not there? Yeah, of course there are some reasons to it. I think we're in a season where we're still changing a lot with players coming in and building new relationships on the team. I think that's part of it where we find some inconsistencies for it, but it's not the whole truth of it, and it's not like you see other teams always having the perfect selection of players to choose from and that they can't keep consistency in their performances. So I think that's a part where we need to improve and we need to do that better. But I'm not waiting till the end of the season to try and find the reasons why we have been inconsistent. Like, that's an ongoing process, and we need to work with that. Yeah, I hope that answers the questions.
Yeah, it was a big question. It was a big answer.
Yeah, that's probably a fair summary of it.
Maybe another big question then. It's been announced this week that Arsenal are going to play a game in Melbourne after the season. Obviously, there's always a balance between like the commercial interest and the player welfare interest. It's obviously great that Arsenal have come to a stage where the commercial interest is big enough to do a game like that. But what did that conversation look like with you and the players in terms of flying out to Melbourne for a game just after the season finishes?
Like you're saying, let's acknowledge the great thing with saying like we're at a point where it's very commercial viable for us to do a post-season trip like this. That shows the club's investment but also the popularity that the team has, not only in the UK but across the globe. I think when you see Australia as a football continent, and I was there and lucky enough to experience the World Cup last summer, and you can see what enthusiasm, what interest women's football had in Australia, and it's great that can continue to build for it, and this is another opportunity to do that, both for women's football in general, but Arsenal as a specific club to that. So once the decision was taken that we were going, now of course it's about making the most and the best out of that opportunity. And that means that for some players it will be the right thing to go, and for some players it will not be the right thing to go. If we talk about it from a loading perspective, a welfare perspective, and so on. And we need to take good and deliberate decisions on that. It's going to be a great opportunity for us to see our first-year professionals get experience, travel with us, playing with us. I think we really need to grab that opportunity as well to invest time in these players. In combination with, of course, we need to have a strong team there and going out and showcase Arsenal to fans in another continent and the way we want to play football. So it's really about finding that balance to do that. And I'm in high hopes that we are able to do that.
Last one from me, slightly more macro question about Villa. I know they played a back three at Everton last weekend. I kind of suspect that's partially in reaction to what happened in the Conti Cup semi-final. Obviously they had Noelle available for that game, they'll have her available, so that makes them more able to do that. Are you expecting them to adjust because of what happened in the Conti Cup semi-final?
Yeah, you can have an educated guess. In the Conti Cup semi-final, they played a back four in the first half, they played a back three in the second half. They were consistent playing that against Everton. How will they start? How will they finish against us? I think that's probably likely that they will play a back three, but we need to prep for both. And I think that's, you want to be consistent as a team, and you need to consistently perform as a team. It comes back to situations. And what I mean by saying that is to say, like, whatever situations, do we have a clear idea and picture on how we solve that? They're a back three, we know how to play against that. They're a back four, we know how to play against that. They're a low block, we know how to play against that. They're pressing high, we know how to play against that. It comes back to that, and that's team maturity. Situation, situation, situation. Do we, as a team and a collective, everyone have a clear idea of what we're playing against and how we play against that? If you have that, you perform consistently. But the moment you don't have the same idea about the situation, that's where inconsistency starts coming into the performances for it. And that's where it comes into that you're not mature enough as a team to be consistent. And that's why this game here, it's good from a challenge perspective for it, because it's a team that can play with many different formations. So it really highlights then for us how mature we are as a team to be able to deal with that. Thanks.
We'll come to the call for a couple of quick ones. Tom?
Oh, thanks. Hi, Jonas. Nice to see you. Can I just go back to Tim's question about the Melbourne game and just ask a bit more about the calendar, because I know some of your players, Leah Williamson and Beth Mead, for example, have spoken publicly about their worries about the calendar. I understand what you're saying to Tim there about the idea that you will take into player loading into account, of course. But maybe regardless of which players go, do you worry at all that a match like this maybe weakens players' negotiating position when it comes to the talks about the calendar with FIFA and UEFA? You know, if players are going to go to FIFA and say, we're playing, there's too much football and we need to think about the international calendar, do you worry that a fixture like this maybe sort of hinders their chances of getting that? Because FIFA can turn around and say, well, hold on a minute, your club are taking you to Melbourne, in your postseason.
I don't really understand the questions. Like, would clubs and FIFA be against each other, or is it?
Well, I suppose, the whole women's game is currently talking about the international calendar, and I know that a lot of players, including some of yours, have said they want there to be more rest into the calendar, and I'm just wondering whether you worry that their chances of any progress with that are going to be hindered by the fact that this game is taking place. Is that going to damage their negotiating position at all?
The reason why we are having activity in this period of the year is because of the calendar. Because we play our last competitive game. Is it the 18th or 17th of May? 17th of May. We play our last competitive game. And the normal thing for us would have been to go on holiday after that, because our competitive season is done. But then there is an international period of fixtures, and I think that starts the 27th of May, where they are playing competitive games. So it was a clear wish from both the players and the association teams to say that, can we not go on holiday in that period to help the players prepare for those international fixtures? So that was the first decision for us to make, to say, like, we're not going to go on holiday for that. And after that, of course, now different opportunities comes up during that period. But this was never a case of where the players could be off because of the international fixtures coming there. If there wouldn't have been international fixtures coming here, I think the decision might have been very different in order to be like, where do we plan our training and matches and so on. But the difficulties lies there. And then you see from a calendar perspective that they play there in the end of May, beginning of June. Now after that, we will not have any training sessions. But what the national team players are, I think they have another camp here now at is that the beginning of July?
I think second week of July.
Second week of July, yeah. We won't have any training there, because at some point we need to give the players time off. But they need to be prepped to play in qualifiers again there in July. And now that comes into the association. And that's a very, very complicated situation. And then when you start looking at it from the players' perspective, of course, that's like, when are they going to have time off? And they definitely need to raise that with all the relevant stakeholders. I don't think that's right. I don't think the summer is rightly planned from the players' perspective in order to be able for them to switch off and get time off for it. But the reason why we are having activity after our last game in the season is because of the calendar and because of the request from the players and the association to be able to train and to prepare for that international period coming up.
Thank you. And can I just please ask one more quick one on that? What would you say to sort of environmental campaigners and people worried about climate change? What would you say to them about why this fixture all across the other side of the world, just for one game, is okay? And maybe are you going to be doing anything as a team to try and sort of offset or mitigate for the kind of carbon footprint of a trip like this? Because I know that your team will obviously really care about the planet.
I think we're a lot of people on the planet that cares about the planet, and we understand that that's a really, really important question for the future of humanity to do that, of course. But I think, as always, when we speak about climate pictures, it's about a holistic picture, and where we need to zoom out, and it's the big collective efforts that will make a big difference in these matters.
Okay, thank you, Jonas. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Last one from Bobby. Just got a couple of seconds now.
Hi Jonas, this game week sees the return of Women's Football Weekend. You played out as sold out Emirates numerous times this season, now you travel at Villa Park. What does playing at these major stadiums do for the team, yourself and the women's game?
Like I said, I think it's definitely the right development in doing that. I think what we've been doing so well at Arsenal, getting more games played at Emirates, getting better and bigger attendances, it's obviously really important, but in a league we can't do it ourselves. We need to be many clubs doing it. So seeing Chelsea doing it at the Stamford Bridge, seeing Villa doing it this weekend, that all plays into the journey that I think we want to go on as a league, and I think it's absolutely the right direction to go in.